what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today is Samson Dauda posting a physique update at 2 weeks out from the 2023 Mr. Olympia. The caption of this post says, one of the biggest guys on the Olympia stage, but with a men's physique waist, mass and aesthetics all in one. And he's kind of hitting that side men's physique pose, showing off the slimness of his waist and kind of the taper from the side. And honestly, this was an interesting update from Samson, because a lot of people, I think, would agree this is one of Samson's big advantages because he has this bigger frame. He's a taller guy. He's a bigger guy. He can be a 300-plus pounder on stage and still maintain a level of aesthetics and taper because his frame is so big. He has a very unique physique. My feeling is still that Samson is going to potentially end up in the top 3 at this year's Mr. Olympia. And this post actually makes me think I really would still like to see, I think at the very end of the Olympia when you have all the champions announced, I think we should have the open guy, the classic guy, the 212 guy, and the men's physique guy, all the champions from all the men's divisions, each hit one pose from all the respective divisions. So whoever wins the Open Olympia would have to hit this pose that Samson's hitting, which I would consider to be kind of the men's physique pose, that kind of side profile pose, maybe with a hand on the hip. Then they can all hit a favorite classic pose. Then they could all hit a mandatory bodybuilding pose, and then maybe another pose for 212, even though the mandatory poses are the same as open bodybuilding. But I would like to see all these different types of physiques hit poses from different divisions just to see how it looks at the very end, all the champions. I think that would be a good idea. We saw Rami and Chris Bumstead do this off stage a couple years ago after the Olympia. Now we're seeing Samson do this. And honestly, he looks pretty good in this type of pose. And I think it'd be cool, like an interesting little addition to the Olympia to see all these guys at the very end hit poses for each other. I think that would be pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And let me know your prediction for where you think Samson will place at this year's Mr. Olympia. Now, next up in the news, we've got to talk about this upcoming, apparently strongman MMA fight. Eddie Hall versus Mitchell Hooper at something called the Finishers Championship. So Eddie and Mitch both posted this. It says Beast versus Moose, February 17th, 2024. And they tagged this Finishers Championship organization, which is a Qatar-based organization. And frankly, I think this whole thing is very weird. It's a weird matchup. Obviously, Eddie Hall and Mitchell Hooper don't have any real animosity towards each other. That's why the Hafthor and Eddie fight worked. That's why people still bought it, even though they weren't expecting to see like real quality boxing, because these guys are so big and they're strongman competitors. They just wanted to see the rivalry play out in a fight. This is a weird matchup, and I'll tell you why. I went to the website for the Finishers Championships. They said there's going to be $300 million USD prize money. It's a 12-match eliminator fight. So I think these guys are going to fight to eventually fight somebody else. I'm not entirely sure how this thing is structured, but with $300 million prize money, I would imagine these guys are getting paid millions upon millions of dollars just to show up, which realistically is infinitely more than these guys would ever make winning the World's Strongest Man. If Mitchell Hooper won it for the next 20 years, every year, he's probably getting paid more just to show up to this fight, which is why this feels to me like a very, very blatant instance of sports washing. If you don't know what sports washing is, the definition is bankrolling big-name sporting events in order to distract from a poor record on human rights. This has often been done with Saudi Arabia and Qatar. You saw this with the FIFA World Cup last year in Qatar. You see this a lot with UFC fights being held in these countries. So you see it a lot with soccer. You see it a lot with fighting. And essentially, it's like, look, we're paying all these big stars that you guys love, all this big money. They're coming to our country. They're having fun. They're fighting for us. They're playing for us. They're having fun here in Qatar or in Saudi Arabia. Just don't think about all the other bad things that we've done aside from sports. Think about this cool stuff that's going on right here. Think about this cool World Cup. Think about this cool fight that we're having. But don't think about that other stuff. That's basically what it is. So I think when you combine this ridiculous amount of money, $300 million USD, and the fact that it's Eddie Hall versus Mitchell Hooper, that feels very much like these guys were sitting down and they're like, let's take Eddie Hall. He's a big, famous strongman. He won the World's Strongest Man. And let's just take the guy that's currently the World's Strongest Man and throw them in a fight. Then we can get the strongman audience. I think that's why this matchup seems so weird. Because it is weird. I feel like they just picked these two guys arbitrarily based on the fact that they both won the World's Strongest Man and that Mitchell is the current World's Strongest Man and just threw him in there. And I think it's kind of stupid from the standpoint of Mitchell in his strongman career. This is less than a month. This is just weeks before the Arnold Strongman Classic. which Mitchell still would be defending this year and likely would be the favorite to win. And it's months before the World's Strongest Man, so obviously there's a chance that he could get injured here and not be able to compete at either of those. But again, from a financial standpoint, they're probably paying him more money than he would win if he won the next 20 World's Strongest Mans combined. Now, the other piece of this is Brian Shaw. So Brian Shaw posted a YouTube video and this Instagram clip of him training MMA now. And this led to a lot of speculation that Brian would also be involved in this event. But I haven't seen any official confirmation from Brian. Eddie and Mitchell Hooper both posted this on their Instagram confirming they were doing it. I haven't seen Brian actually commit to this event, and I've seen people say it's going to be Brian versus Martin Ford, and I've seen nothing to suggest that that's actually what's happened. Neither of those guys have confirmed that. But I think like 6 days ago when Brian posted this MMA training footage, a lot of people were like, well, that's weird. Who's Brian training for? Why is he training MMA? Then just a few days later, you see this announcement come out of Eddie Hall versus Mitchell Hooper for this $300 million fighting event. So the natural conclusion is, oh, Brian's doing it as well. And I feel like if Brian does do it, they're just going to pick some arbitrary opponent for him too. And I can see these guys maybe not really being too invested in this fight. I don't think they want to hurt each other. I don't think Eddie wants to hurt Mitchell. Brian Shaw does not seem like the type of guy to me that wants to fight or hurt anybody. He's like a gentle giant. He's the nicest guy in the world. I feel like these fights are going to be these guys just showing up for a paycheck, taking it very easy. Because I really think this is going to be one of those things where it doesn't even matter who wins. I think they're going to be paid a guaranteed amount that's ridiculous just to show up to the fight and fight. And again, it's MMA, not boxing. So there's a much higher chance of these guys getting injured. And I think for Mitchell, I don't think he wants to end his strongman career before he's 30. I mean, the guy's only 28 years old. I don't think he wants to hurt himself at this point in his career with a potentially devastating MMA injury. And I think when you combine the fact that it's MMA with the fact that these guys are like 300 plus pounders, and there's a lot more weight and a lot more force and a lot more power behind not only these punches, but the maneuvers and the grappling. Honestly, I don't think this is an event to get super excited about. I think, I'm not going to judge these guys if they want to participate in the sports washing stuff, but I think they should show up, kind of get their paycheck, maybe spar a little bit, not take it too serious. Who wants to see Eddie, injure Mitchell Hooper before he has to go compete again? Nobody wants to see that, and I don't think Eddie wants to do that. And again, Brian Shaw, to me, seems like the type of guy that doesn't want to hurt anybody, so I think it's weird if he is involved in this. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think in the comment section below, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are pretty passionate about this topic. A lot of people are not a fan of this whole sports washing stuff that's been going on, especially over there in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. I mean, the bodybuilding equivalent of this would be like Phil Heath fighting Hadi Chupin in some MMA championship in the middle of the year in Qatar. It's weird taking the reigning defending champion before he defends to fight a former champion in MMA where neither of them are like fighters. And they don't have any real beef. It just seems like very high risk, pointless, and for the fans, it's only going to take away. If one of these guys gets hurt, particularly Mitchell, you might not ever see him compete again. So, yeah, you might get the brief entertainment of seeing these guys fight for 10 minutes. But for the strongman fans, you might never see Mitchell compete again if he gets hurt. From the bodybuilding standpoint, if one of those two guys got hurt in a Phil Heath versus Hadi Chupin fight, you might never see Hadi get to defend his title. It's kind of stupid for the fans of the sport that these guys are representing at the MMA event. Now, the final story that I've got for you guys today, because that segment went so long, is Andrew Jacked. We get the first glimpse of how Andrew Jacked is looking since the Texas Pro going into the Arnold Classic. In 99% of the posts that he puts up of him working out or whatever, he's wearing a complete hoodie. But in this, he's in a tank top. You can see his full arms, his full shoulders, and you can kind of see what kind of shape he's in to really the fullest extent that we've been able to see so far. Andrew hasn't really been super big on physique updates close to the Olympia, revealing a whole lot close to the Olympia, or showing us a whole lot close to the Olympia just at all. He likes to let his physique do the talking the day of the show, but I think here he looks pretty chiseled. His delts look crazy as usual. He's got that round 3D look to his muscles. His arms, his biceps and triceps actually to me look a little bit flat, which I think means he's probably going to be in really good shape. But also, it's kind of a weird angle to look at him from. This exercise is kind of not a flattering angle for biceps and triceps. But overall, it's hard to really tell much from this update, to be completely honest. And I think it's going to be interesting to see where Andrew Jacked places here, because I feel like a lot of people see him as a top guy this year. Obviously, I think most people think he's going to be in the top 10. I think it's a little bit more of a question of if he's going to be in the top 6, and if he is, where in that conversation does he find himself? Because when you talk about the top 6, you got to think about, you've got Hottie, you've got Brandon, you've got Nick Walker, you've got Samson Dauda probably, you've got Derek Lunsford. That's 5 guys there that I have a really hard time thinking will not be in the top 6. So I think that Andrew stands a pretty good chance of maybe being able to take that number 6 spot. Or I should say, I think he's got a good chance of cracking the top 6. That's my opinion. It's hard to say where exactly in that top 6 he would fall, but the main guys that I don't see being outside of that top 6 are Hottie, Derek, Nick, Samson, and Brandon, and I could see Andrew in that mix with them as well. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, and click that bell notification icon if you have not already to be notified every time I upload so you don't miss any of these Olympia updates. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.